Welcome to Terrifying Tales, the channel dedicated to bringing you the original horror stories from author CJ Knight. If you like what you hear, please like and share the video. Feel free to leave a comment and please consider subscribing to the channel. That way you get notified when the next episode becomes available. The Girl at the Bar. The sun dipped below the mountains as the tyres kicked the dust of the familiar dirt road. I was finally free of the heat. The outback wasn't for the faint of heart at the best of times. I found myself in the area for work. Work for labourers was difficult to find, as more building companies fold every day. The world is suffering from a cost of living crisis not seen for over 30 years. One of the many side effects is no one is building. Out of desperation, I took the only work I could find. A job commissioned to build affordable housing in the centre of Australia. The job pays well enough, but I've never known heat like this before. More than one co-worker had dropped from dehydration on the site. I've been here for 3 months now. Under normal circumstances, I'd think I'm working for a lost cause. No one in their right mind would live out here in isolation on a voluntary basis. But right now, I think they would. As Australia suffers through the cost of living crisis, rent and mortgages in the major cities are no longer affordable. The rate of homelessness grows every day. They call this new town built from scratch Outback Haven. The truth is, its real name is Nowhere Plains. And let's call a spade a spade. The term outback is generous. This place is literally a desert, surrounded by distant mountains. Nowhere Plains wasn't completely bare when we first arrived. I was quick to discover a bar about 40 miles from the job site. The owner was an old guy named Davey. He hadn't put any thought into the name. The bar was simply called Davies. None of the other guys I worked with ever made the drive to Davies. We all lived on site. Our first job when we arrived was constructing temporary accommodation buildings. There was a healthy supply of beer back there, so the boys never saw the reason to travel. I, on the other hand, needed the break. I'd go stir crazy without a daily drive to clear my head. Davy's gas prices were dirt cheap too. That made the drive worth it. Every pothole and bump on the dirt road rocked and lurched through the cab. I barely noticed them anymore. The faded lights of Davies came into view in the distance. I could already taste the beer. I pulled the car up right by the front door, just like every other day for the last 3 months. Mine was the only car in the car park. The wind carried thick red dust through the air. It didn't bother me like it used to. By now I had 3 months' worth caked into my skin. The rusted hinges squealed as I pushed my way through the front door. "How you doing there, Andy?" Davey said. He didn't need to look up from the bar to know it was me. I was here at the same time every night. And just like every other night, I told him. Tired and thirsty. Davey pulled a beer from the fridge and popped it in front of my usual seat at the front of the bar. "You ever think about hiring some entertainment for this place?" I said. Stared around the old bar as I sat. "I know I'm great company, but it's a sad day in hell when I'm the prettiest face you see here every day." Davey was busy fiddling with the keg fittings under the bar. "2 things, Andy," he said. "The first, I don't much like people. As far as I was concerned, you're one person too many." "And the other thing?" I asked. His bald head popped up from beneath the bar. "You're not the prettiest person I see every day. I do own a mirror." A chuckle from the corner booth of the bar caught me off guard. I hadn't seen her when I walked in. Tucked away in the shadows was a dark-haired woman in leather pants and a jacket. I didn't need to see her to know she was pretty. It was strange. As if she gave off a feeling of pretty. I was drawn to her. I didn't remember standing up, but here I was walking over to her. "Mind if I sit with you?" I asked. She motioned with her hand to the bench in the booth opposite her own. "I'm Andy." "I heard," she said. Her voice was smooth, melodic. A warm feeling washed over me, like a safe warm blanket. Are you thirsty? I asked. She lifted her head. Her honey-coloured eyes were easy to get lost in. More than you could ever imagine. The sides of her ruby lips curled into a cheeky smile. My voice caught. I wasn't normally this nervous around women. Can I buy you a drink? What would you like? She giggled as I struggled to form the questions. I would love a drink. You can choose, but I doubt you'll pick what I want. I did have one idea. I walked further than I needed to the far end of the bar, out of the girl's earshot. I discreetly waved Davy over. Do you know her? I asked. Davy tried to glance at her. I stopped him. Davy, no one knows this place exists. I'm betting she's the only woman who's ever set foot in here. You shouldn't need to look to know who I'm talking about. Davy smiled, grabbed a bottle of whiskey down from the shelf. This is what you're after. He poured a neat glass and slid it across the bar. I gave him a nod of appreciation as I took it back toward the booth. I didn't even get your name, I said as I handed her the glass. Elizabeth, she said. She brought the glass to her lips. Her eyes closed as she savoured the taste. Not bad, Andy. Not exactly what I wanted tonight, but it'll do for now. I wasn't sure if I was able to hide my disappointment. They don't know me from my poker face. Do you live around here? I asked. Just passing through, Elizabeth said. Her eyes studied me. In a world full of looks, I thought I'd seen them all, but I never felt as awkward as I did right now. I remembered my car was the only one outside. How are you getting around? I asked. Elizabeth's eyes drifted to Davy at the bar. I turned in time to see him look away. Why is he watching us? Davy lets me park my bike out back when I stop here, she said. Well, that answered my next question. The leather outfit in this heat now made perfect sense. Why don't we get out of here? She asked. Something felt off. I couldn't explain it. It was like that startled feeling you get when you're falling in a dream. I opened my mouth to politely decline, but only one word came out. Yes. Elizabeth stood from the booth and gently took me by the arm. See you next time, Davy, she said. Tyres kicked the gravel outside. We need some hunting beers, Davy, a burly man in a dirty singlet top said as he walked in. Two others followed him. Well, what do we have here? He said, noticing Elizabeth. Maybe the hunting's already over, boys. He put his hand on her shoulder. Back off, I said, stepping between them. The man brought his face within inches of mine. Easy, boy. You don't want trouble with us. I can take care of myself, Elizabeth said. A snarl flared on the man's face. Sounds to me like she's after some real men to take a hike. One of the other men pulled the rifle from his shoulder. He didn't point it at me, but the threat was implied. The man in front of me pushed me away and dragged Elizabeth beside him. I rushed forward. I never saw him pull the hunting knife, but I felt it as it tore through my stomach. God damn it, Norm, Davy screamed. What'd you have to do that for? My legs gave way. My brain couldn't grasp what happened. Blood gushed from the wound and pooled beneath me on the dirty floor. A high-pitched scream filled the bar. Elizabeth pounced on the guy that stabbed me, wrapping her arms and legs around him. She rocked her head back and sank her fangs into his throat. He pushed and pulled at Elizabeth, trying to shake her free. He screamed as she tore a chunk of his throat away. Blood sprayed the walls as she spat the chunk to the floor. I'll never forget the sound as she sunk her fangs back into his throat. A growl, mixed with the sound of the strongest thirst. Elizabeth wasn't just drinking his blood. She was gulping. Panic screams came from the other two men. I started to black out. There was a gunshot, and the world went dark. I woke to Davy's face. The three bodies of the men were scattered in pieces around me. Elizabeth's face was covered with blood. Davy stood and grabbed a mop from the nearby bucket. I laughed. "What's so funny?" Davy asked. "You are," I said, coughing up blood. "You and that mop go together like water in a fuel tank." Davy turned to Elizabeth. "He's dying. Either drain him or turn him, Lizzie." Elizabeth crouched beside me. "Well, I'm not thirsty anymore. Looks like it's your lucky night, Andy." I barely felt her fangs as they gently pierced my neck.